Hello and welcome to the channel. It's Steven here from Powell's Power Ups. I have a lightsaber going up for sale today. This is the overview video, so sit down, get comfortable. I'll talk about everything that's included in this lightsaber and what is not included, as well as how to properly take care of it and how and what not to do. So let's get into it. This is the original box that it came with, Bubuk's Garage. This is the open hatch Galen Marek lightsaber. The concept here is that the panels or hatches on the handle section are magnetic and removable, and underneath there are these windows that you can look through to see the internals. So like your chassis, the greeblies. I designed this one to have the kill switch here so you can turn it on and off without taking the handle off, and also on the other side an OLED screen so that you can see various graphics and animations. So if you want to know more about what's included and what's not included, as well as a price breakdown, look in the description down below and you'll see that stuff listed out. Here is the inside of the box. It has the original foam inside. We have a few things in here that will be, in the little compartment next to the lightsaber. We have your box that will hold your battery. We have a little Ziploc baggie with your blade retention screw. We have a tool that I've included to get the battery out. I got the battery compartment a little bit tight, but this tool works really great at removing it. This is actually just a little tool to get bubbles out of screen protectors on cell phones, but it also works really great for when installers make the battery compartments too tight. So I also have in here the display panel that came with it as well for the lightsaber. And I've never taken it out of the bag. It's been in the box the whole time, but it says Star Wars The Force Unleashed, Galen Marek's Starkiller lightsaber. On the flip side here, it has Bubuk's Garage, the Starkiller OHGM, open hatch. Yeah, open hatch Galen Marek. This is a limited run. There were 55 of them made. This is number 32. So yeah, I got one of these like last summer, late summer maybe, something like that. So yeah, snagged one and did an install on it, and now it's going up for sale. So there it is. There's the lightsaber. Let's get it out. Here it is. So yes, I weathered this one. It was all shiny, pretty aluminum when I first got it, but I decided to go with a weathering job on this one. So I got out the scratch pads and some steel wool, and I weathered it all up, and then I applied aluminum black. Once I got all that worn off and gave it the look that I wanted, I hit it with a matte clear coat. That way it would be protected, but also take some of that shine off, give it a little bit of a flat look so that it actually looks like someone reached in and pulled it right out of the video game. That was kind of the idea there with this one. I didn't weather any of the black pieces, so like this choke section on the pommel here, this thumb screw here on the inside of the crystal chamber. All the black stuff, I left it alone, but I did weather all of the aluminum parts. As you can see there, it also has a steel emitter, so I used a blowtorch and heat stained that. So that's also kind of weathered too, in a sense of it being heat stained. I'll start with the top section here. We'll go with the emitter. So as you can see, there's this has like a choke, like a small choke point there. Is a little different than some of the other ones. The way this comes off, like, oh, where are the blade retention screws? They're actually hidden underneath. So you can just unthread this upper portion here to expose the blade retention screws. Yes, lots of threading. So there is one. They're little tiny ones, and there is two. So it's probably good that there's two, because if there was just one, probably wouldn't do a very good job holding the blade in place. Which personally, by the way, we'll talk about this as we go along with this lightsaber. I think this is going to be a great shelf queen. I don't think this will be a good one for cosplaying or playing around with too much. But we'll talk about why later, mostly because of the hatch panels. They're magnetic and they hold on as far as like, sitting in place and looking at it and showing it off. But if you were to start doing spinning and stuff like that and twirling and some saber moves, I'm afraid these panels aren't the most secure thing ever. But we'll get to that later. Anyway, so here I loosened up these blade retention screws. Blade plug comes out. As you can see, it's not a really shallow emitter. or it is a really shallow emitter. It doesn't have a lot of blade depth to it. But inside there we have a stock version 3 NPXL connector. It's wired, its data line is wired to be independent from the main blade, so it has its own blade style on those 16 pixels. And I've also wired it for blade detection. So I don't have a 7/8 inch blade. By the way, that's what this takes, is a 7/8 inch outer diameter pixel blade. I don't have one, but if you were to plug one in and out while the saber was on, with blade detection you have audible feedback. So it plays a sound like that whenever you plug in a blade or remove a blade. So putting the blade plug back in, tightening down the blade retention screws. I'll give you an extra Allen wrench. It's a small one. If that way if you lose it you have another. I don't have extra set screws, so don't lose those little set screws either. But I'm glad that it has two. If you do put a blade in there, two should do a pretty good job of holding the blade in place, even though it's a shallow emitter. So you tighten them up, thread the emitter back on. Once you get all the way down, I wouldn't recommend making it real tight because you don't want that to get stuck. It would probably be difficult to get off if it got stuck. But I just kind of go till I feel it's a little snug. But I don't think it's gonna fly off either, because as you saw, there's a whole lot of threading it has to go through before it flies off. I think you would notice. I used a little of the PTFE dry lube in the threading just so it would stay lubricated and not get stuck, but I didn't want to use like grease or any other kind of traditional lube because I didn't want it getting all gooky inside of there in the threading. So yeah, that's what I used. It works really well on threading for lightsabers. Crystal chamber. So the red and black wire in there are actually functional wires that run up to the blade connector. That's the positive and the negative for the power. So don't cut those or anything. They're just kind of in there for aesthetic looks too, though. They run behind this main pole here. The crystal is a resin printed crystal. I printed that clear. I wanted a sharp, good looking crystal in there that illuminates really well. And then it sits right on top. You can almost see through to it. It sits right on top of a 9-pixel LED. So there's 9 pixels on a little LED PCB underneath that pixel. It's wired individually, has its own blade style as well, independent from both the blade connector and the main blade. Underneath the control box, you can't see them, but there's tactile switches in there. We got power at the bottom, auxiliary at the top. I will admit that the auxiliary is a little bit stubborn, so you have to press it a little bit harder than you normally would, harder compared to the power button at the bottom, but it is functional, it does work. So we'll move down now to the handle section. So the chassis is removable. We'll get to that in a little bit. The way it removes is by taking the pummel off, but I want to show you the panels here. So this is the open hatch version of this lightsaber. These hatch panels are magnetic. So you just grab the little spine piece there, and these are removable. So you can see there's 5 magnets. So we got 4 on the inside of the panel and 1 more down here by my middle finger right there, pointing it to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 magnets with these little pre-drilled holes where the magnets sit down into them that hold these panels on. It does a good job holding them in place, and you can hold it, but you can feel there's a little play in them, just a little bit, not a whole lot. You can kind of hear it. So that makes me a little bit nervous, not for just holding it and showing it off, but if I were to try to do spinning and tricks with this, I'm afraid these would get loose and maybe come off. And I say that because if you twist your hand in it, you start to catch these spines right here, and as you can see right there, they'll start to come off. So they're not the strongest thing ever. It's not like I had a choice either. I couldn't really put bigger magnets in there. I mean, they're pre-drill holes, so I had to use the size that was in there already. But I think this is still a really great option for a shelf queen and for showing off some, but just not cosplaying or playing around with too much. But anyway, as you can see here, the point of removing these panels is to look at the inside. So here's a glimpse of the chassis that I have designed. On the inside there, it's got some greeblies on the side here, some pipes and a little fan and stuff like that. So you got that under that panel. All panels are removable. Here we have an OLED screen under that one. This one is more greeblies, more pipes, and showing off, you know, stuff on the inside. And then this last panel here is the actual kill switch to turn it on and off. And I've also thrown in there a blue and yellow LED. So there you can hear the saber kick on. Got the LEDs blinking. I kind of got the Luke red-green sequence going here. When you kick it on, I just have them blinking back and forth. When we look at the other side here, here's that OLED screen. Try to get the camera to focus. So it gets really active whenever you kick the blade on. Kick it off and it does that. I'm actually going to turn it back off and on because I want you to see the boot graphic, which is a K-Sith Saber fonts boot graphic, because these are the K-Sith Starkiller fonts on here. We have the Force Unleashed 1 and 2.
The Force Unleashed 2. The Force Unleashed.
So there's the magnetic panel going back on, wrong one. So they all kind of magnetize to their individual spots. So it's pretty obvious if it fits on a certain spot or not, because if it doesn't, like if I try to switch these two, it's obvious that this one doesn't magnetize there. So they're not all the same. They have to go in their spots. So that's what the handles look like on and off. You can actually take all four off too. So we just have it all exposed now. We have the LEDs, the kill switch, the OLED screen. This piece was free floating and just kind of it spun and it, you know, moved up and down all by itself, but I didn't want it to move, so underneath of it I put a little bit of E6000 just to kind of hold it in place. It can be, if you know about E6000, it's just like kind of like a rubbery glue. It can be broken pretty easily if you need to, and it has clean removal as well. But anyway, whenever you put the panels back on, just kind of find the spots where they sit. Again, you'll know it's the right spot, because if it's not, it won't magnetize there. There we go. See, as you can see, I got it pretty quickly. So yeah, there's the pixels underneath that crystal. You can see it pulsing while it's in an idle state. So does the blade connection PCB up here with the LEDs. It pulses too, and it shines through on the rim there. So we know his lightsaber turns blue. And the next one. All right, I'll get out the chassis now and show you that. So to get out the chassis, you just unscrew the pommel. Down inside of there, you can see I have a little 3D printed spacer that helps hold the chassis pressed up against the connectors on the inside, and keeps it all tight and snug, so don't lose that spacer. You need that. But you can see the chassis sticking out there, so I'm going to grab it and pull it out. I'm going to remove the panels too, just to show you where this connects. But on top here, we have the stock 10-pole PCB connector set. So this chassis has to be inserted a certain way. There's a pole here this is the male side that plugs into the female side on the pin connector on the inside of the handle. So I'll show you that momentarily. But there we have the kill switch for on and off. There we have the greeblies that you saw earlier, the OLED screen, and more greeblies. Here at the bottom we have the 3 watt 4 ohm speaker. So that's what's on the bottom. Put in place. We have a Proffieboard version 2 in here, which I have a whole lot going on in this chassis and a whole lot of wires underneath of it. So it wasn't doing a really good job of sitting down all the way inside of my chassis by itself. So, and I didn't want to glue it down either. I know some people glue it down, but I didn't want to glue it down because I want you to be able to lift this board up and plug into the USB port to do configuration if you want, and to be able to access the SD card. So I just put a little strip of Kapton tape over the top of it to protect these connections from touching the inside of the metal hilt, which you don't want to do because that could possibly damage the electronics, which would be caused from shorts. So I'll include you a roll of Kapton tape. I have some of this stuff. I like to put a fresh strip on if I ever do remove it. I try to get all of my programming done and get it how I want it, and before I put the Kapton tape on it, so that once I put it on, I don't have to keep taking on and off and putting on new strips. So there's a fresh strip on here right now. This just stays on to, again, protect everything. The battery compartment is here. That little tool I talked about, you just use the top end and just kind of stick it in the top, and you can kind of wedge that battery out like you saw me do there. It's just the Keep Power 18350. 1200 milliamp hour battery. Had to go with a little bit smaller battery in here so I could fit things in like a kill switch, OLED screen, and some LEDs, as well as the connector up here. But yeah, so there's also like a little spine in the battery too. You can kind of see it right here. You can feel it when you run your finger across. I like to have that sticking up. So you push down against that spring. So you push down against that spring, compress it all the way that you can, and then you're going to push that positive end in until it pops in all the way. Kick it on. There's some clashing. Yeah. Anyway, so I'll put this back in and show you how the chassis goes back in. I like to remove at least one of the panels so I can see down inside. There you can perfectly see the pin side connector, and you can see that hole there. So this is the female side. And so whenever I insert this chassis, I want to line up that rod to go into that hole. Generally too, I know that the way that that's lined up is by lining up the chassis with the window itself is kind of a good indicator. So I know that if I'm looking at the top of the lightsaber on the switches, I know that the kill switch is right here just to the left. So I kind of line that up to get me started. There's a sweet spot, but once you find it, you'll feel it go in. And then your speaker should only stick out about that much. Then you can put your, with your spacer in there, put your pummel back on and get it nice and snug, and that will push the chassis all the way, the rest of the way in, and hold it nice and snug. Then you can kick it on, make sure those LEDs come on, and that indicates that you have a good connection. So that is the open hatch Galen Marek lightsaber that I have for sale. So again, I think this will be a great shelf queen. Oh, I turned it off. If you're interested in purchasing, just reach out, let me know. But anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoyed my work. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments down below. But yeah, thank you for watching, and may the force be with you.
I'll find a way, General. Why is this happening to me?
You know what I'm looking for. The Force Unleashed. What is your will, my master? I will not fail you, my master.